Hello and welcome to today's webinar in partnership with Invest Northern Ireland. Today, our panel will be discussing how GCC fintechs can benefit from international fintech ecosystems with a spotlight on Northern Ireland. I would like to ask all of our panelists to please turn on their webcams, and I will now hand over to Scott Hanna from Invest Northern Ireland for opening remarks. Over to you, Scott.
Thank you, Emma. Hello, as Emma has said, my name is Scott Hanna. I work for Invest Northern Ireland, and we're the economic development agency for Northern Ireland. With over 20 offices across the globe, our head office is in Belfast, and I'm based in Dubai. Thank you for joining the FinTech webinar today. Our moderator is Professor Philip Hamill from Abu Dhabi University. He'll be introducing the panel and leading the discussion. Philip, it's over to you.
Thank you, Scott. Well, you're all very welcome to today's webinar, which is going to explore the FinTech ecosystem in Northern Ireland and possibly opportunities for collaboration between the GCC and Northern Ireland. I've been here since 2016. I'm currently the Associate Provost for Research and Innovation at Abu Dhabi University. So I have a remit for university connections with trying to develop the innovation ecosystem within the UAE. So I've been here for 4 years and I've been amazed at the love of technology in the Middle East. And you only have to look at the transformation recently because of COVID-19 and universities going online. There's great investment in technology infrastructure. My background is in quantitative finance, academic finance. And one of the things that strikes me is how the skill sets that are available in Northern Ireland are so fundamental to developing the FinTech ecosystem. I think this is quite a timely seminar, given that the policy imperatives within the United Arab Emirates. The central bank here recently launched a strategy for developing a FinTech ecosystem. And one of the core strands of that strategy is partnerships. So ecosystems are all about connections and partnerships. And if you want to develop your FinTech ecosystem, we have a mature ecosystem within Northern Ireland in FinTech. We want to look at the possibilities that people could collaborate and help the UAE develop their FinTech ecosystem also. I'm very fortunate today to have a number of people here who have long experience in Northern Ireland and breadth and depth of how the ecosystem has evolved and how we got to the point where we are today, where we have a very successful innovation and specifically FinTech ecosystem back in Northern Ireland. So I'd like to introduce each of my guests one by one. So from my screen on the left, I'd like to start with ladies first. So Karen, would you give us a bit of background on your role and responsibilities with Invest NI?
Good morning, everyone, or sorry, good afternoon, everyone. I am Karen Bradbury. I'm the Financial Services Sector Lead for Invest Northern Ireland. I'm based at our head office in Belfast, and my role is to really work with the sector here to help it develop and work with companies who are looking internationally outside Northern Ireland and also looking at potential investment. So my role is really to support the development of the sector here in the ecosystem. I also work on an individual basis with a number of our large multinationals who've located in Northern Ireland.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Keith?
Yes, my name is Keith Farley, and I'm Managing Director and Vice President of Aflac Northern Ireland. And Aflac is a Fortune 500 US insurance company that set up here in Northern Ireland almost 2 years ago. It's almost been 2 years that we've been here now. It's crazy to think with the pandemic and everything. But we've seen a lot of success here, and I'm happy to be part of the call.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And to my bottom left is Dr. Godfrey Gaston from Queen's University.
Hello, I'm Godfrey Gaston. I'm Executive Director of ESIT. ESIT is the Institute for Electronics, Communications and IT. So essentially focusing on three main areas. One is cybersecurity, wireless technology, and data sciences and high performance computing. So it's as Philip has said, as part of Queen's University in Belfast. I'm particularly interested in how research and innovation work together as part of a wider ecosystem. So I'm looking forward to the call today.
Okay, thank you, Godfrey. And finally, Andrew.
Thanks, Philip. Good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to be here. My name is Andrew Jenkins. I'm the UK FinTech Envoy for Northern Ireland. I was appointed to that role in October 2019. And in that capacity, I am the lead ambassador for the FinTech sector in Northern Ireland, helping it to grow and develop. I'm also a Director of Software Engineering at Arity, a company founded by the Allstate Corporation.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay, folks, so I'd like to open with Karen and then move on to Andrew, really get a sense of the big picture in the policy landscape in Northern Ireland, given Karen's role with Invest NI and as Andrew just mentioned as the fintech envoy for Northern Ireland. So Karen, can you explain to the listeners how Invest NI has assisted firms interested in investing in NI and what sort of help and support do you offer to potential clients?
Okay, thanks, Phil. And well, in terms of the wider financial services sector, and we would include very much fintech as a key part of that. It's a very important sector for Northern Ireland, and it's a sector that is growing. There are over 40,000 people employed in the financial and related professional services sector in Northern Ireland. We've always had a strong local sector with local banks and also local insurance and accountancy and legal firms servicing the local market. However, Invest Northern Ireland, recognising that strength, has really been working to encourage new foreign direct investment in that area. And that really started in kind of the mid-1990s with Allstate and Liberty Mutual, and then grew with Citi in around 2005, and then more recently with companies such as Aflac, as Keith mentioned, as Keith's representing today, but also Chicago Mercantile Exchange and TPI Cap. And I guess that the growth in the sector has really been driven, the significant growth has really been driven by outside foreign direct investment in the sector. And how we have supported that, well, there's a number of ways. One is around financial support. We do offer incentives for companies that decide to locate here in terms of supporting their early setup costs but I think where our support can really make a real difference is in the area of skills development. And we offer training support and really offer a pipeline and an assurance that we will support the skills pipeline to allow companies to fully develop here. And another reason, and the other thing that where we offer support, but also where the companies and the whole government, if you like, and the Northern Ireland Executive were working, is this whole concept of collaboration. As you mentioned, it's absolutely critical to the success of any ecosystem. And here we're a small region within the UK. However, we all know each other or are connected, maybe are related to each other, have either worked together or related, but that there is a real sense of collaboration, and hopefully you'll get a sense of that on the call today, that there's a desire from government to support it, but also companies working together, and also very importantly, the skills with the university. So it's really Invest NI's role within that is really facilitating that growth and that collaboration and working to make those connections.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Karen. Andrew, from your perspective as the envoy for Northern Ireland and fintech, we recently had the publication of the Khalifa report. How do you see things moving forward from here to develop the fintech sector?
So I think, Philip, and just to touch on a couple of points that Karen made, there's around 40,000 people across Northern Ireland employed in the financial services and technology sector, and specifically within fintech, we have 7,000 people. And that proportion, approximately 1 in 5, is the largest proportion of any other UK region. And what we're also seeing is we're building clusters of internationally recognized expertise in areas such as RegTech, regulatory compliance, InsurTech, trading tech. And we're seeing that those are really being propped up and foundation with cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data. So all the ingredients are there in terms of the tech clusters, and then the fintech clusters that are using those technology clusters. And when I look across the ecosystem here, it is really diverse, both in terms of its depth and its breadth. We've identified around 74 companies and growing that are operating within that fintech sector. And they range from large FDIs like Aflac and like Allstate, but also homegrown startups. And we also have local government and universities and higher and further education institutions part of that ecosystem as well. And part of, concept of the ecosystem is that each of those parts, those constituent parts, need to be healthy in order for that ecosystem to thrive. And that's really what we're seeing. Collaboration is really key to that. And you mentioned the Khalifa review. The Khalifa review really sets out the strategy for how fintech can continue to grow and develop right across the UK into the future. And Northern Ireland is right up there, recognised as one of the emerging clusters.
Thank you, Andrea. I think it's really interesting you mentioned the word collaboration. We do a lot of work here at the university. Different universities, we talk about future work skills. We talk about the 4 C's now. Historically, it was the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now we need the 4 C's of collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. So this seems like a real world example of real benefits of collaboration and it's a key enabler for building a fintech ecosystem. So again, I think there's work to be done in the universities to help enable that and really embed those types of skills. And, given the quality of the graduates that we have in Northern Ireland, and the fact the cluster is going to shows that those attributes are present as key drivers for employing graduates and driving business performance. Yeah. Okay, I'd like to move on to the next question and start with Keith. Keith, as someone who's invested in Northern Ireland and living and working here, could you explain to the listeners why Northern Ireland was chosen and your experience of growing the business since coming to Northern Ireland?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Aflac is based in a medium-sized city in Georgia in the States. And over time, as technology became more and more important for every company, including insurance companies, we recognized that our technology would be a competitive advantage. But we couldn't fill all of the tech jobs that we had in and around Columbus, Georgia, just based on the size of that city. So we started looking at 15 different cities across the world that we would expand and create a center for advanced technology, and just fell in love with Belfast when we saw what it had to offer. And the reason why is because of the ecosystem that you've got here. It's an unbelievable education system that I am now seeing firsthand as my children are struggling to keep up with all the other students here. I have a daughter who's 10 and a son who's 14, and I'm seeing firsthand why the talent is so good, because it starts at such a young age. And then as they move up into the universities with both Queen's and Ulsters here, you've got tons of talented people coming out. But then the fintech system sort of starts to move off of a momentum of its own, because you do have the indigenous companies here as well as the FDIs that has created an entire fintech ring here of people that are working across these industries and bringing innovation to life. So we've seen a ton of success so far. We've been here now for just about a year and a half. We have 85 people. We were 19 when we went into lockdown about a year ago this time, and then we've brought in another 66 people since then. So we've seen a great amount of growth, and the talent that we've got here is really impressing our teams in the States as new ideas are coming from here, and some of our most advanced technology, our cloud computing, cognitive science, web and mobile development is all happening here in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Keith, that's a great endorsement for investing in Northern Ireland for your company, and great endorsement for other firms who would think about coming. That's great insights. Godfrey, from your perspective, in terms of growing a business in Northern Ireland, what do you see as the main drivers and advantages of the experience that you've had?
Yeah, so just to maybe add a little bit more detail, one of the things I didn't mention in the introduction, I was also a co-founder of a startup, Titan IC, which is a cybersecurity startup, but I guess working in the same broad space that we're talking about here. And it was acquired literally about a week before our lockdown, about just a year ago. It was acquired by a company, Mellanox, who then actually themselves were acquired by NVIDIA. Most of you maybe have heard of NVIDIA, a large US computing company. And essentially, they're now growing and developing the operation in Belfast. And I think the important thing for me was that the company coming in, it didn't, so NVIDIA didn't take the technology and sort of move on, but are committed to Belfast. So you ask yourself the question of why remain in Belfast, but what's the attractor, or why stay there? And I think it's maybe building on what Keith was saying. I think a lot of it is really to do with the expertise, the skills, and that wider ecosystem. And I think it's maybe just important to maybe pull out a couple of points, because ecosystem is a word which we use quite a bit already on the call. And I think the important thing for certainly for me and for the company was, the constituent parts of that ecosystem. So looking at the different areas. So there's the research and the academic piece, which clearly are the skills, which is important. And then the industry piece. So that's both small startups and the larger corporates and the role they play in that ecosystem. And then government clearly is a third part of that ecosystem, the support that they provide. And Karen has touched on that already. But then there's a couple of other parts to the ecosystem which I think are really important and maybe quite unique for Northern Ireland, is around the support around entrepreneurship, investment, and that whole area to try to promote and keep the innovation going. So if it's all just government support, then if government support stops, the ecosystem doesn't keep going. So I think that's what's important within Northern Ireland, having that innovation. It helps the engine that keeps it all running. And then I think the final part of the ecosystem, which has been successful in certainly keeping the companies here and growing and developing, is around the skills, which is probably slightly different from the university piece. Clearly, the university has a role to play in the skills, but there's also a wider skills piece, which I think is really important, including the schools and further higher education colleges and other programs. So I think it's that combination, which I think which doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I think that growth and that development has happened over many, many years. And I think it's that maturity of that ecosystem that really has helped ensure that companies stay and grow and have the ability to develop further, essentially.
Godfrey, you raise a really important point there in terms of spin-outs and spin-outs from universities. I'm sure there's listeners here today that wouldn't know that Northern Ireland, Queen's University was ranked the #1 spin-out university in the UK, and #2 was Cambridge. So we tend to associate the winners with Oxford and Cambridge in the UK, and the success story, particularly with Cambridge University and the technology parks. But Northern Ireland is actually #1 spin-out university. So yeah, it's great to see that whole entrepreneurial angle. And you're someone who has been there from the start and has been a successful entrepreneur and a spin-out. So you're a testament to that story. I'm sure, as you said, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long period of time to get to the point where you become the #1 spin-out university in the UK. So that's a great insight for
thank you.
Okay, folks. So Northern Ireland, a lot of success, and it's generally acknowledged that we had the review of economic policy around 2009, which helped consolidate the skills agenda and get all the different organisations working together and collaborating. And it's beyond doubt the success of that strategy, given the growth of the industry. And a lot of people in this room have been here, myself and Karen were here a long time ago, probably 15, 16 years ago at the start of this process. So it's great to see how well it's done since then. We've now had the Khalifa report published, which is the most recent, excuse me, which is the most recent policy initiative to support the fintech sector even further. So I'm interested in the panel, so how they see it in response to the recommendations in the Khalifa report, how they see things moving forward within Northern Ireland as an enabler, given the past successes, the past policy responses. So maybe start with Andrew.
Thanks, Philip. I mean, I think it's a really exciting time for fintech right across the UK. The Khalifa review, or it was previously known as the independent fintech strategic review, so Khalifa is probably a little bit easier to say, was brought forward by the UK government back in 2020 and was chaired by Ron Khalifa. And the recommendations were published actually just at the end of February, so really hot off the press. And really the objective of that review was to look at how the UK could maintain its position as a leader in financial services and innovation into the future. But what the Khalifa review did that other reviews hadn't done was it looked at fintech right across the UK. So not just about what's happening in London and the southeast of England, but what was happening in the fintech space across the different UK regions, to see where those emerging clusters of expertise were coming forward, and Northern Ireland was identified as one of those emerging clusters. in some of the areas that I've mentioned before, expertise around reg tech, insure tech, trading tech, and so on. The output from the review was really a 5-point plan, looking at policy and regulation, looking at investment, looking at international competitiveness, collaboration, national connectivity, but also skills. So what is happening now is each of the different fintech associations, each of the different regions are looking at those recommendations to say, well, how do these best apply to what I'm trying to accomplish, we're trying to accomplish within our respective regions. Now, what it means for Northern Ireland is the development of a three-year strategy, and we've never had a strategy specifically dedicated to fintech before, so this is new ground. But what I think it does provide is a great opportunity to look at how we can support the ongoing growth and development of fintech here. We have the recommendations from the Khalifa Review, and then at the end of 2020, the Northern Ireland FinTech Association published its findings and ecosystem report. So you have the review findings and you have the ecosystem report, and I think together we have a really solid basis now to take forward a strategy.
Yeah, fantastic insights there, Andrew. I'm sure there's one or two people maybe listening today who are coming from a policy perspective, and this would be a really good resource for them if they want to do a quick Google of their own Khalifa report. It would give them some great free consultancy if they want to get insight into the UK's latest strategy. Okay. Godfrey, from your perspective, you have, as I said, been involved in innovation and technology in Northern Ireland for a long time, and you've seen the evolution up until this point. Again, in the context of the Khalifa report, what do you see as the main drivers of how we can bring this forward and make Northern Ireland even more successful from a fintech perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting things for me coming out of the report, I guess following on from what we were saying earlier, was that cluster approach and trying to identify centres of excellence or areas of excellence. And I think following on from what Andrew was saying is you're taking this away from the southeast of England. So I think to me that's a strong endorsement of making sure that this cluster approach works, and it shows that the approach has been taken over the last number of years with growing that cluster, growing that ecosystem, that is essential and it's the right way to go. So I think I certainly welcome that commitment, to make that happen and to, I guess, grow and develop. So what we have today, if you fast forward, 5 years from now, I mean, I think that the future looks really bright, given that support and that commitment at the highest level to make that happen. So I think it's really exciting as we fast forward, in terms of how the cluster is going to look. So yeah, I think it's great times.
Yeah, hopefully it's an exponential growth curve and not just linear. That will be the hope of the future. Keith, you touched upon your experience during the pandemic, and I think some of the listeners would be interested in understanding, it's been a very difficult year across all sectors given COVID. And you've touched upon the fact that you actually grew your business in Northern Ireland. So can you tell us a bit more and give us a bit more detail about, the drivers and the motivations that you started with a relatively small number of people. You've increased fourfold in the space of a year during the pandemic. What insights can you give us as to why that was a good idea from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, first I would recognize that we're very fortunate in the sense that unlike, first responders or retail, hospitality, they really had no choice in how they could operate. But as a financial technology company here, everybody had laptops, everybody had the Zoom ability that we're on right now. And so we just carried on and we shifted our interviews to online interviews instead of in-person interviews, online inductions and training, and then have just continued to grow the company in this virtual environment. We see the importance, kind of back to the 4 C's, we see the importance of collaboration and creativity and coming back together in an office, and hope that we can do that, sometime this summer or this autumn. But, in the meantime, if anything, we accelerated our hiring during the pandemic because there was available talent out there. There was plenty of work from a digital perspective. I think if there's one thing that COVID-19 taught us, it's the importance of digital and people wanting to have digital solutions and online solutions. So for what we're building here in Northern Ireland, it was just sort of, even more importance for the work that we're doing. So we chose to accelerate it. We were supposed to end last year with about 50 people by our plan, but we ended with 75. So it was a significant growth that we had there, and we'll continue to building. We hope to get to about 150 people here in Belfast, and we're well on our way to that goal. But I just found that everybody has a very resilient attitude here, and it was just sort of, okay, we'll shift to the new way that we need to do things. And there wasn't a lot of fussing about. We were able to just make the shift and continue our growth, and more importantly, continue our delivery of the solutions that we're sending back to the US and Japan.
Okay, thank you, Keith. So move on to the next question then, folks. You know, especially for Keith and Andrew, you work for very large companies that have the option probably to invest anywhere in the world. I'm curious as to how you found the talent pool in Northern Ireland compared to other locations globally. And we've touched upon it briefly, but is there any specific areas that you find that Northern Ireland has a strength, particularly in the area of graduates, that help drive your business performance? Everyone's familiar with fintech as a concept, but I think a lot of people don't understand the variety within fintech, and it's actually quite diverse in terms of the range of businesses that fall into that space. So, is there anything specific to Northern Ireland in terms of talent that you find is in supply in Northern Ireland, which may well be in short supply elsewhere?
Go ahead.
Thanks, Keith. So when I look back through the Allstate history, the Allstate story in Northern Ireland, the original plan was for Allstate to hire 50 people, and now we're close to 2,400 people, and I think that is a testament to the skills and the talent that are available in Northern Ireland, and within that very broad range of different roles. A lot of software engineering clearly would be one of our core areas of expertise, but product management, big data and analytics, data science, project management, to name but a few. So I think what we've seen is establishing the core base, and then continuing to add value back to the Allstate in the US. Now, what we've also seen is I think any company coming into Northern Ireland has to be ready and willing to invest in building that talent pool, a sustainable talent pool. I think that's where the collaboration with universities around graduate programs is really important. And a great example of that is the fintech higher level apprenticeship program that just has been run out of Ulster University, and that was built in collaboration with industry around what industry needs are. So I think that's a great example of when industry and academia come together, come up with some really creative solutions around how to continue to build that sustainable talent pool. But that's really important. I think companies coming into Northern Ireland need to be ready to invest in building that talent. I know something that Aflac have been very good at as well.
Yeah, Philip, I would say from our standpoint, much like Andrew said, I mean, there's a lot of talent that's here, that's in that ecosystem. We talk about the fintech ecosystem, but you obviously have to grow and create other talent as well. And one of the things we found is whether it's taking students from the university and graduate programs, or whether it's programs like the Assured Skills program, where essentially, Invest Northern Ireland, working with the Department for the Economy, will make it so that outward or inward investors, if the skills aren't there, they'll assure that the skills are there through training and bringing people up. And so we ran an academy last year where we took 20 people that were switching careers, and we had everyone from a professional tennis player to a medical doctor to a couple of folks that were just graduates that wanted to do a career switch, and they wanted to get into software development. So we worked with local college to create curriculum, a 12-week program for these students to go through. And then when they graduated, we had these students that had the skills that we specifically needed because we worked on the curricula to make sure that it was the right stuff for the jobs that we have. And I think that that's a big part of, I haven't seen that in other places where you have the government working with academia, working with the businesses to ensure that the population has the right jobs and the right roles, whether that's machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive engineering, software development, or cybersecurity. Kind of whatever you need, they'll bring in the right experts to teach that and create that talent for you if it's not readily available.
Keith, it's fantastic to hear that. I recall many years ago with the publication of the the Northern Ireland Economic Review, and one of the key recommendations was trying to implement what was then still called the North Carolina model, the source triangle, and assured skills was a key part of that. I think I personally set up the first Assured Skills Academy in 2011, Karen, around that time for financial services. So I had a look at the website a few days ago and I looked at the range of Assured Skills Academies and thought, this is absolutely brilliant, you know, and to hear those stories of how it has enabled businesses to grow and get people to get jobs. So when I launched the first academy in 2011, it was post-financial crisis. And we advertised it was open entry for anyone that wanted to try and skill in the financial services sector. And we had 2 people turn up to the University of Ulster Belfast campus from a wide variety of backgrounds who wanted either to skill into financial services or recent graduates who were trying to find their niche. So it's great to see it go from where it was then to where it is now in the range of Assured Skills Academy, supporting such a variety of jobs in the fintech sector. So yeah,
if I could just add to that, Phil, in terms of the importance of the role of the universities and the colleges, you know, that desire to understand the needs of companies and to work with them. You mentioned like a long time ago, but the IAQ qualification and things, that the work that you did with Ulster at that time is a really good example, and the fintech higher level apprenticeship that Andrew has spoken about there as well, but the desire from the universities to really understand business need and to be able to meet that need, to make sure that they're and the colleges and making sure that they're putting out the qualities and qualifications that are needed, and increasingly the schools as well. There's a real engagement at all levels to make sure that the qualifications coming through are coming through in the right areas.
Karen, I probably have a relatively unique perspective compared to most people in that I was responsible for representing Queen's with Invest and also the University of Ulster. And when I look back on the portfolio of activities that was developed while I was at Queen's as well, so if you think of the very high level technical skills in terms of bringing in actuarial science for the first time, bringing in quantitative finance, there's other programs I think have been developed since in risk management as well. Ulster, I helped develop a portfolio of programs at graduate and postgraduate and undergraduate level. And when you put the whole package together, and some of the more recent innovations like the higher level apprenticeships, you really do have just a fantastic basket of skills to meet the needs of the fintech sector, from the really specialized advanced quantitative programming skills right down to more business orientated project management skills that help drive the business along. So yeah, it's come a hell of a long way since I think I gave the city presentation in Queen's 2004 or 2005. So it seems like yesterday, literally yesterday. And it's hard to believe we're sitting here in 2021 talking about the success of Northern Ireland's fintech sector. So it's great. It's a great story. Godfrey, you, like me, have been in Northern Ireland a long time, and you've seen it grow. And could you tell us briefly about the experience of creating a tech company within an academic environment? We touched upon Queen's being the #1 spin-out university in the UK, and how commercialisation was achieved within Northern Ireland setting and the eventual acquisition by Mellanox.
Yeah, so it's I think you alluded to it already, Philip. It's not easy. It's not a trivial exercise. So anybody who works in the university and looking at doing spin-outs, it takes time, and you know, sometimes people want results very quickly. But my experience is, you know, sometimes it takes 5 to 10 years of getting the idea, getting the company, and then growing and developing that. And maybe if I can just pick up on a couple of points. Again, we talked a lot about research and innovation, and I don't want to insult the audience too much, but I can't claim credit for this, but it's just a very, very simple explanation about what's the difference between research and innovation, because we use these terms all the time. And I think the secret, I would say, of success of certainly ESIT and Queen's around this area is excellence in the research and excellence in the innovation. And those two are absolutely essential. And the difference, really simple terms, research is taking large sums of money and creating a small number of ideas. Innovation is taking a small number of ideas and creating large sums of money. And I'm being a bit simplistic there, but my point is they're two different processes and they're working in different ways. And if you want those to happen, you need to employ people, and you need to have support and expertise, both in the excellence in the research, but also in that innovation, pulling the technology through into commercialization. And I think that the success particularly has been around making sure that as academics, we're solving the right problems. I mean, sometimes academics can be guilty of solving the wrong problem. Now, I know we need to have blue skies research, we need to think creatively and all of that, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we're working on the right problem that industry needs us to solve. So that's been really important, making sure that companies who are become members of the institute and sit around the table and help shape the research agenda, tell us what we're doing. That has been absolutely vital, again, to show that we're developing the right products. And then as startups, I mean, I think the interesting thing for me on my journey was when you go to Silicon Valley and you talk to some of the big companies. If you go in as a professor or as an academic, you maybe get to speak to a different person within the company. If you go in as a CTO of a startup, you get to speak to the product manager, you get to speak to the guy who's developing the new business idea. And that then helps shape the research back again. So if you're talking to the leading edge people in the Valley, for example, and then bringing that back, influencing the research that we're doing within the university. So it's kind of a virtuous cycle, if you like. And I think that probably has been, if I was to narrow it down, that's probably it's been the secret. But ultimately, in conclusion, you can't do it without excellence in the research. So if the research is average or not very good or whatever, then you can't innovate. So the excellence in the research is the bedrock, but it's not the only thing. I think would be my sense of. And as you say, I've been doing this now for 17 years. And you kind of got some scars on the back, but also some good stories as well. So I think that's probably a summary of 17 years in about 2 minutes. And
we'll maybe have a separate webinar just for you, Godfrey, on innovation in the fintech sector. Maybe a good idea. Yeah, that's again some fantastic insights there, Godfrey. And I had never heard that phrase before. I did an MBA on a course in innovation, and converting large amounts of money to small projects and small projects to large amounts of money is really, really from, I could see it from a theoretical point of view, but I've never heard it conceptualized quite so simply before. I can talk about it from a real options perspective, but that's probably too mathematical and pointless. So yeah, make it real. I think the message coming from, getting your research to innovation. Okay, folks, so move on now to next question. I've sat in numerous Invest NI meetings, and again, the point is that maybe 1 in 20 or 1 in 25, Karen can confirm, will actually make the decision to invest in Northern Ireland. And typically at the core of that decision is there someone from that firm who more than likely, and Keith can empathise with this, will locate to Northern Ireland, that they're going to have to physically lead the investment and possibly bring their family with them to set up this new investment on behalf of their firm. So start with you, Keith, in that, I don't think we have to convert on Godfrey or myself or Karen. We're well converted to the benefits of Northern Ireland. But I mean, what would you say to someone from a family perspective about coming to work and live in Northern Ireland with a family?
Yeah, it's been a great place for us. I mean, in the conversations we had with Invest NI in 2017 and 2018, they made no mention of coronavirus. So that came as a surprise to us. So there was a little bit of a spanner thrown in there, but we've enjoyed it. The kids have been very well welcomed here and have enjoyed it. They really enjoyed the time when they were in school, and they're going back, I think, on April 12th is the date. So they're excited about that. But it's a great place. I mean, Northern Ireland is a small enough place that you can get around and see everything. On a Saturday, you can go to any of the 6 counties and see all the things that you want. There's plenty of, Belfast as a city has great food and entertainment and plenty of things to do. We've enjoyed that. We say that we're tourists that are living here, so we're long-term tourists, and we have a whole list of 100 things we want to do in Northern Ireland and see in Northern Ireland in the time that we're here. I think we'd gotten through about 69 of them when everything kind of closed down. So we'll be in makeup mode for sure, but it is a great place to travel and discover. And of course, there's plenty of trips from here to other parts of Europe. So we've enjoyed that, in a pre-pandemic world. I think in our first 9 months, the kids saw 10 different countries. which coming from the US, that's rare that your kids would have that sort of experience. So we really did enjoy that. And the people here are just very welcoming, very warm. And I can't wait till we can get back out in public and see them again and re-engage with the community. It has been great.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to that, Keith, as hopefully we're coming to an end of the pandemic, get back to a sense of normality. Folks, one of the issues for any firm, possibly from the GCC, is really understanding where Northern Ireland is and how you get there. I mentioned at the start of this webinar that a key strategic priority for the central bank and the national strategic priority is to build a fintech ecosystem. And one of their strategic themes is partnerships. So the question is, well, how accessible is Northern Ireland from the GCC region? And I'm probably someone who's best placed to maybe answer that question. So I'll ask myself the question, having been here for 4 years. A lot of people mightn't be familiar with Northern Ireland as a region and how you get there. So what I would say is that it's actually very, very accessible. It's a very easy place to get to. You can easily access Northern Ireland with direct flights from most of the GCC countries to Dublin. And it's a short hop and a skip from Dublin Airport up to Belfast, which is an hour and 20 minutes drive, an hour and 30 minutes drive from Dublin Airport. So from that perspective, it's very easy to get to and get back from. Within the UAE alone, we have flights with Etihad, we have flights with Emirates. So on any given day, you have at least 3 flights in normal times. So my experience having been here is that I used to leave work maybe once a month on a Thursday for the 3:15 flight from Dubai. And I was sitting in downtown Lurgan by 9:30 p.m. on a Thursday night. And if it was a long weekend with holidays, I would be on the afternoon flight from Dublin. I think it was 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So I get up on the Monday morning, make the kids their breakfast. My wife would go to work, get the kids to school, and I'll be back in Dubai by midnight that night. So getting from Bahrain, getting from UAE, either Abu Dhabi or Dubai, to and from Northern Ireland, there's an endless number of flights via Heathrow. So you can, once you get to Heathrow, I think in any given day, there's got to be at least 8, 9, 10 flights between the Belfast, George Best, Belfast International Airport and the International Airport. So if you want to get to Northern Ireland and get back from Northern Ireland quickly, it's a very easy place to get to. It's only a 6 or 7 hour flight, and the time difference isn't a big deal. So if people are interested in exploring Northern Ireland, it's an easy place to get to. And one thing we're looking at the moment with the business school is, once the COVID period is over, is organising a visit to Belfast and Dublin to understand the ecosystem better and bring as many alumni and graduates from the business school to Northern Ireland to understand better, maybe have a road show for a few days to find out what they can about how the policies that have been developed and implemented and the success of Belfast. So moving on now, we've covered a lot of ground here today, and moving on to the next question, which will maybe finish us off. Ground, I'll start with Andrew, then I'll go to Keith, and then Godfrey. From each of your perspectives, what would you say to any business thinking of investing in Northern Ireland? So start with you, Keith. What's your message?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend it, and that's just from personal experience. Come visit as soon as possible. You know, to hear about it is one thing on a webinar like this, but to see it and to have those conversations and to experience it is something totally different. We had a total of, I think, 27 different executives come over to Northern Ireland during our decision, and every single one of them that left got on the plane out of here and said, we've got to do this, we've got to set up. So I had a ton of support. So I would recommend for anyone, come visit, come see these things for yourself firsthand, come see our office. I would welcome you to see what we're doing. And I think that it doesn't take a lot of convincing once you get on the ground and see what it has to offer.
That's a great message, Keith. Andrew?
I would echo Keith's comments. I would also, from a personal perspective, I've worked in a number of different cities in my career, and I found myself back in Belfast, and I don't think there's anywhere I'd rather be. I think any company that is considering coming to Northern Ireland to set up is coming at a good time. Certainly from a fintech point of view, there's a lot of focus both nationally and internationally on fintech at the moment. We've got very strong partnerships across Northern Ireland, but also into the other fintech hubs, and which is critically important when you start to think about, financial services regulations and sandbox development. I know that's something that is of interest for Gulf countries. And anybody coming to Northern Ireland is going to be joining a sector that is growing and is rich and diverse.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Godfrey?
Well, clearly we've already touched a lot on skills and friendliness of the people and how they welcome them. So I think those would be key areas. But since we've talked about those quite a bit already, I think maybe one other thing we haven't maybe touched on, and I think it's important. For any business, it's all about managing risk. Any decision is a risk-based decision. And I think for me, given where Northern Ireland sits in terms of the legal infrastructure, the strong ethical approach, from an intellectual property law point of view, from a time zone, from English speaking, so there's a lot of things there. So as you built, on top of the things we already talked about around the skills, etc. If you look at those areas, those are all low risk factors. So if you're looking to grow and develop externally, then I think those are also really important points where you, if you're going to invest somewhere, I guess Keith's a great example. Recently, a lot of it will be risk-based decisions, and clearly you want to minimize those risks. So I think from a Northern Ireland perspective, clearly, there's a lot of offer in that regard, i.e. a really low risk environment in which to invest.
And Karen, what's your message?
Sorry?
What's your insights and message to potential investors?
I would echo what everyone else has said, and as the Economic Development Agency for Northern Ireland, is particularly brilliant to hear companies who've done it and been here, and they if you like, they're our best advocates. So what the rest of the panel were saying, all I would add, and building on Godfrey's message around risk, is that Northern Ireland is a region within the UK, so it's regulated within the UK and addresses and is lower risk. But it's also, Northern Ireland is one of the most cost competitive regions within the UK, and also the youngest population. So when you look at that, and also the government support around building skills and supporting startup costs, then I think it's a good place to set up business. And actually Belfast has been ranked in a recent survey as a business, one of the top business friendly cities in the UK. So it's a place that is open for business, very keen to do business, and as an agency we're very keen to support you. So echo what Keith said, come visit, and if you are interested in a visit, we of course would be delighted to welcome you and to set something up. And
okay, that's great. Thank you, Karen. Karen, just following off the point you made there about Northern Ireland and Belfast, are there any other areas for economic development that potential investor could think of that has building an innovation ecosystem? It's
within Northern Ireland, yeah.
Yes.
Certainly the dairy, London dairy, there's also a real growing cluster there. As Keith spoke, Northern Ireland is not a big place. It's sort of 70 miles from one side to the other. So there's a lot of connectivity around that. But if you look at companies such as Allstate, where they've maybe set up in Belfast initially, but have grown and grown other centres in Derry, London Derry is the next kind of main city within Northern Ireland. So there's growing cluster there as well. And a number of companies have followed in that, where they've maybe set up in Derry as well as Belfast, or some of our more recent investors have set up in Derry as well. Alchemy is an insurtech company who chose Derry as its location. Also, First Derivatives, which is one of our indigenous companies who really was started by Brian Conlon in the mid-90s. They're headquartered in Newry. So really around the region, there are a number of centres and growing.
Yeah, I suppose for people who are not familiar with Northern Ireland, they don't realise how small a place it is and how connected it is in the northwest down as far as Newry. So really, maybe argue it's all part of the same ecosystem. and it's easy to connect to any part of it.
Yeah, but certainly, I mean, in terms of the, you know, what Keith was talking about earlier around the resilience of Northern Ireland and things, but as a sector, I mean, during the pandemic, it moved seamlessly to remote working. So I think that actually, you know, that the future of work, and as people will then be looking to blended models where rather than being office based 5 or 6 days a week, that there will be an element of working from home. I think that the benefits of that and that remote working, you know, that people will not necessarily live where they work, you know, that they may be more inclined to be office based for 1 or 2 days a week. And I think that will have big implications for the growth of the clusters throughout Northern Ireland as well.
Okay. So from Invest NI's point of view, I mean, is there any minimum number of jobs that are stipulated in order to qualify for assistance to set up in Northern Ireland?
No, I mean, the things that we would look for in any project would be around sustainability, you know, that, you know, if somebody's coming here, that the risks have been addressed, that they are, you know, that there's a long-term growth plan within that, but there's no minimum nor indeed maximum amount of jobs that we would look at anything and would in terms of it. So it's around sustainability and that risk as well.
Okay. So I mean, there's a few questions that are coming in from people who are interested in finding a bit more about Northern Ireland's potential location. One question is why you would choose Belfast over London. Maybe Keith, you'd be someone who could have a look at that to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the first thing that would probably come in is cost. So, you know, London prices would be akin to, you know, from what I'm used to, New York and Silicon Valley, and you can have, you know, similar talent that you would receive. I mean, I always say that there's a grit here about people, and there's a little bit of a wanting to prove something, and they want to prove that they're just as good as Dublin or London. Just give us a shot. And I found that when you do give a shot, you know, they are, and pound for pound, I think this is one of the best places in the UK and even in wider Europe to invest. So yeah, I mean, London, I think, comes to a lot of people's mind as one of the first places in the UK, but with that coming to a lot of people's mind also comes tons of competition there that you would find. So I like to keep London where it is, and that's about a 35-minute flight away. It's close enough to participate in it as you need to be, but I'll keep my talent here in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Okay, that's good. That's what we want to hear. Grow the business in NI. We've spoken at length about the universities, the role of Ulster University and Queen's University in terms of enabling the innovation ecosystem. Again, maybe Keith, from your perspective, you briefly touched upon the fact that you had relatively young kids living in Northern Ireland. We said about families relocating to Northern Ireland. What's the message? So much more from an education point of view in secondary and higher education, the quality of secondary education in Northern Ireland. What would you say to someone, again, in a similar situation to yourself, who may be the lead on the investment of your experience of your kids coming to a different education system and the quality?
Yeah, I think that education here is just taken much more seriously at a very young age than it would be in you know, and of course I'm comparing this to the States, so that's the only comparison I've got. But I think, you know, part of what they do here is because there's different transfer tests into different schools as you go through secondary school and so on and so forth. The kids are constantly striving for academic excellence here in a way that I haven't seen in the States as much. I mean, in the States, when you're about 2 to 3, maybe 4 years out from university is when you really start buckling down and the standardized testing starts and all of those types of things. But here at 10 years old, they have this AQE transfer test that my daughter took 3 weeks after showing up, and we'd never heard of the thing, and people have been studying for 2 years for this thing, and that's the intensity. We'd never heard of it, you know. We didn't know how important it was at the time, you know. But it's things like that. So I think just at a very young age, they start the students on going into these different you know, academic pathways that leads up through all the way up through the university level. Very strong maths here, which comes into play, obviously, with everything we're doing in data and machine learning and AI. That maths background really comes in. So we've, you know, again, as a new person coming in, you know, it's a little bit intimidating because there's so many schools, there's so many choices. But once you sort of figure out, you know, what school you want to go to and where you want to live, then the options, you know, start to kind of come to fruition for you. But it's been great, and I think our kids will be better for it whenever we do return to the States. I feel like our kids will be, you know, a year or two ahead of where they would have been had they just stayed in the schools that they were in back home. So it's been great.
Well, Keith, my wife's a Northern Ireland school teacher, and I can tell you they're not the type of people you want to mess with. Yeah, there's difficult to communicate the culture of education in Northern Ireland, but it certainly outperforms other regions of the UK year on year in terms of GCSE and A levels. As I said, there's a strong culture of academic excellence which feeds through the secondary schools and into the universities. I always felt that working at both universities, we're very lucky to have the caliber students coming into us that we have, and you know, it's easy to push those students forward. I remember seeing a report at one stage that, I mean, the academic profile of the students in Northern Ireland is on a par with any of the elite Scottish or English universities. I don't think it's it's random that every now and again the Oxbridge decamped Northern Ireland has encouraged Northern Ireland students to apply to come over and study elsewhere, but fortunately the vast majority of them decide to stay with UU and the QUB. One question that has come through that people are interested in is what type of job titles are typically created by FDI companies like AFLAC and Allstate in Northern Ireland? So maybe back to you, Andrew, types of roles.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the roles within Allstate Northern Ireland would be software engineering. But you know, within that, there's a very broad range of different different job families. You know, we have data engineers, we have mobile application developers, we have people that are specializing in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data. And then outside of maybe the core software engineering roles, we have product management, data science. You know, a lot of the work that we do within Allstate is around Agile Scrum. So we've got a lot of roles associated with Agile Scrum. So across the gamut, Phil, and I think that's one of the things that oftentimes isn't seen. Is just the broad range of different roles that FDI companies you know, have created within their walls. And I think that again is testament to the skills base, the talent base that we have in Northern Ireland, that we can find people that are you know, that have those skills, and we can actually, you know, there's quite a lot of internal mobility goes on as well. So people moving from maybe job family to job family, and the upskilling and the reskilling that goes along with that. Okay,
thank you, Andrew. And then finally, Keith, have you any insights in terms of the roles that you've created over the past year? You've grown fourfold during the COVID. What can you tell the listeners about those specific job roles?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it's similar to what Andrew spoke of and what Allstate and already have done. So it is, you know, Agile and Scrum teams that are either software development, as well our cybersecurity. So all of our penetration testing is happening here out of Northern Ireland, our red teams, data security, things like that. You know, really, as AFLAC looks at this location, we call it intentionally our Center for Advanced Technology, because the most advanced tech that AFLAC as a corporation, global corporation, is working with is tech that'll be housed here in Belfast. So we really look at it as, it's not the legacy systems, it's not the old stuff, it's really the new stuff that's the most difficult to understand and the most difficult to harness. And that's where we look to Belfast to say that's what the team here will do as a Center for Advanced Technology. So very similar to the roles that Andrew talked about there. And really, I would say data science and AI and ML is becoming probably some of the biggest focus that we're having more recently.
So they're all very much in demand, hot skills globally. Unfortunately, we seem to be able to supply those skill sets in Northern Ireland. Folks, this brings us to the end of our webinar. I found it fascinating. I've found out things that I didn't know before about Northern Ireland, and hope that some of our listeners have found out a lot more about the opportunities in Northern Ireland. And I'm sure, Karen, from your perspective, if there's anyone interested in finding out more about collaborating or partnering or investing in Northern Ireland and Invest in, I would be more than happy if they want to reach out.
Delighted to. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Emma?
Thank you, Philip, and thank you to our fantastic panelists for that great discussion. It was really interesting. And to our audience as well, hope everyone has a great afternoon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.